Hi there, my name is Trolls and welcome to Soundpaint. In this tutorial we're going to go deep into our effects system inside of Soundpaint. As you may know, Soundpaint is a free engine and it comes with dozens of free effects as well. When we were developing the effect systems, we had two different types of developments. One was based on true analog old school modeling. So for example, taking my favorite reverb in the world, my favorite algorithmic reverb in the world, the 480, and create a true emulation of that. Or a true emulation of a plate reverb, an old school plate reverb, where we look inside of the units, we see how they behave, and then we build that back into software with all the nonlinear and chaotic aspects that may offer. We also have a beautiful chorus effect that brings out that juiciness from the old school synthesizers. You can actually go up to 16 voices, so we added to it as well. And for every single effect, and I'm gonna go through every single one in this video, you notice like we have analog components as well. You can control the non-linear behavior of the effects. And it's really cool because it allows you not to have that sort of static effect, but they can really move and develop themselves like you see in real life with analog models. And that's just the top of the sonic iceberg that the effects section inside of Soundpaint is. For example, we also have an old school BBD delay that is a British bucket brigade. Imagine you have a bucket of water, you pass it to the next person, a little bit of water spills out, and the same thing happens to your audio signal. It sort of gradually gets degraded. So that's really good with delays where you get a more sort of organic, fluent kind of way of the signal to fade out. We also have a beautiful distortion, which actually includes 12 different distortion models as well, all analog as well. Really allows you to get grit and punch in your sound like I haven't heard it before. But the other side to the effects section, and as I said, I'm going to demo all of them in this video here, is that we have very modern effects. For example, Shimmer reverbs have been very popular the last 10 years or so, and I love them myself. So we created a really advanced Shimmer reverb, allows you to do pitch modulation and many other beautiful aspects so you can emit other tones in the reverb. We also have a granular reverb, so it'll take the tiniest fractions of your sounds and create new reverbs out of them. And again, with analog behavior too. So if you dial up the analog behavior in these digital units, they start developing that sort of more unique, lifelike electronic way. For example, we have a delay that emulates rain. That's something they couldn't do in the old days, but really chaotic effects that allows you to sort of play an instrument and let each note drop like rain, if you will. And of course, we also have a variety of more common tools. For example, a really good LA compressor. That's my favorite compressor as well. True analog model as well. But that's just me talking about it. The effects section here, also if you're a newcomer and you have no idea what I just said, is really designed for you just to have fun and put things together. You can have 7 different effects in the engine all lined up. And even if you don't know what they do, I encourage you just to try them out and see what happens. That's how I learned it. I didn't read any manuals for it. And just use your ear. And if you find something that's beautiful or unique combination of effects that's beautiful, go for it. It's yours. But let's begin the journey here. If you click on effects, you're going to see all these different 7 racks here. I'll click on one of the empty ones to show you. You'll notice that it says delay, distortion, and so forth. I'll work my way alphabetically down the list in this video here. We're going to start in the very top, beginning with our beautiful BBD delay. This is one of my favorites. And in this case, I'm playing it on a Juno 60, and I have 2 different delays going side by side to create sort of more fluctuation in delay. It's beautiful. Let me show you. And you notice that I'm moving my mod wheel and pitch bender a lot here. I just like doing that to create more of a sort of feel to it, but you can really hear those 2 delays so weave in and out. If you look here at the UI, you'll notice that we have different types of delay modes here. We can go short or long, and we can also use ping pong, meaning that you go more in a stereo mode here. If I type in more analog on the BBD here, which is already an analog model reverb, it's gonna get more unstable. The delays are gonna start scattering more in time and space, if you will. In contrast to the BBD delay, you also have the modern digital delay here. I like to use this one for more modern style of music where I don't want too much analog fluctuation, though you can add it over here. Here is another example of the modern digital delay used on our G-Brass library. I'm gonna play in a very sort of march-like way so you can really hear how straight the delay can be and almost like computerized. But I think it's very important when it comes to these effects, whether it's delays, you can see we have many different ones, or reverbs, for example, that one really tries to think about what style of music are we designing this for. For example, if I'm doing a meditation album, I'm gonna be using Shimmer. If I'm doing something a little more old school, probably gonna use a plate or a Lexi. If I wanna go more crazy on modern, I'll do the grain and the digital. And the same thing goes for delay. So these type of different delay aesthetics appeals to a different kind of music. Another one of my favorite delays is our rain delay. It emulates rain on your keyboard, and you can sort of choose the deviation. How much variation do you want in rain? How much rain do you want? Or how many notes do you want? Let me just try to play that on a relatively simple just melody without any chords, and see how complex it gets as the rain starts dripping down, or these cascading notes, if you will. Here is another example of the rain delay just used on an 808 tom. It's a crazy effect because you can both alternate with how many sort of drops in the delay are landing, but also the pitch of it by alternating time. It's really a wicked effect. We also have another abstract delay, our scat delay. This is more of an old school sort of vintage idea of creating a multitude of ping pong delays. So instead of the rain sort of randomly falling on your keys, delay scat here is more emulating that of a bounce. Imagine like a ping pong ball, and what you can do in terms of creating abstract delays and even reverbs out of that. And let me show you what happens once you start messing with bounce and time. It creates almost sort of reverb effects or super delays, if you will. I want to say it's becoming more than just a delay. For those of you guys who are into like how you build these things, for example, reverbs are theoretically made of a bunch of different delays, and you can really get into the realm of reverbs with this one here. We have two different basic type of distortion models. The first one here is what we call our modern digital. It's digital distortion, if you will. It has a very specific sound, the sound we've often gotten used to when we listen to distortion in computers. And this is sort of that. But again, always with a little extra warmth and fuss, even when it's digital. We like to keep things alive on the backside of the engine. But I often find myself falling back on the analog distortion. If you look down here, you're going to see that you have 12 different weapons of choices. These would equal different distortion algorithms, and things sort of get tougher and tougher as you get into more destructive weapon profiles. Let me just show you what I mean here by playing a little bit with our 1975 and using different distortion algorithms over the same riff. Or perhaps a more colorful way of demonstrating all the different distortions is on drum kits. You can really hear the different flavor profiles. Let me show a few here. Another effect that I keep gravitating towards is our equalizers. These are not your standard equalizers. They're designed to be more musical in their DNA and the way they behave. One thing I really like to do is to take a higher frequency sometimes and associate it to my mod wheel. It allows me to sculpt more on certain high frequencies. In this case here, the upper frequencies of the bow of the beautiful bassantar bass. In this example here, I'm going to do the same trick but to a piano. So you're going to see me move the mod wheel here again. And if you ever want to assign anything, for example, let's say this guy here, to any controller on your keyboard, just right click, choose Add MIDI CC Automation, wiggle that controller, and now you can see I have full control over this guy as well. And if you want to remove it, just right click and click Remove Active Automation. I still got the other guys here, and I'm going to apply them on a beautiful C7 grand. And did you see that last part when I moved the mod wheel here? It's just so effective in finding that sweet spot of a spectrum in your mix. That was the EQ5. The EQ10 is a little bit different in the sense that it's based on specific bandwidths. You can actually just hold down your mouse button if you ever want to sculpt over these things. This also goes for the arpeggiator. We always think about how you can get to the smoothest place you want to do in the fastest amount of time. So in this case here, you can see just hold down your mouse button and sculpt your frequencies, or choose from one of the presets out here. We also have 3 different filters: a modern analog, a classic vintage ladder filter, and the infamous true state variable filter. They're very different in terms of their color on the sound, and I'll take you through all of them here, beginning with the modern analog. As you can see, there's a variety of options in the modern analog here. For example, you can choose the type of filter that you want. You can choose the amount of poles, which normally stops at 4, but we actually have it all the way up to 32 if you really want to push it and see what happens. The usual suspects in terms of cutoff and resonance. You have your ADSR over here. And over here you can dial in how much analogness you want in the filter. That means sort of that more natural, slightly, ever so slightly unstable behavior in the filter, and how much life you want in that. You can also add further distortion and such. Let me just show you how different the poles sound by playing a repetitive riff and then just going through some of the pole. We also have a beautiful ladder filter, some more old school filter traditions. Let me try to play it here on a Commodore 64, the gaming computer that I grew up with and that I love and adore. We also deep sample it, and it's a phenomenal, super underrated synthesizer in the 4 to 8-bit realm, really with a personality and a grit, but it's delightful through an analog modeled ladder filter. Here's another example of the ladder filter and just how beautiful and organic it is. Let me just show you the modern analog versus the filter ladder and the filter state variable in comparison. But one thing is delays, another one is equalizers, filters, and so forth. But one of my biggest loves when it comes to effects is reverbs. And we have 5 different ones that are very, very different in their character, behavior, everything they do. Let me start out here with the modern digital reverb. This is sort of what we would see with a normal digital reverb. It's very sharp, very precise, a very unique, strong, powerful type of reverb. We also have a granular reverb. So if you're familiar with granular plugins and designs, it's really the idea of taking a tiny fragment of a sound and then repeating it in a variety of different sequences, in this case designed to make reverbs out of those tiny fragments of the instrument itself. Check it out here. In this next example, I want to show you our Lexi reverb. This is one of my favorite reverbs of all time. It's very airy and bright and beautiful. And I made a unique patch here that is a variation of the guitar lili, but it almost sounds like an electric harp in the tradition of the great Andreas Vollenweider, who really inspired me a lot when I was a young lad. Let me just show you here. Below the Lexi reverb, we're gonna find our plate reverb, also one of my favorites. In this case here, I'm gonna try it out on our 1975 Gibson guitar, and it's just the perfect combination. Old school, beautiful electric guitar, 127 velocity layers with a really well emulated plate. It's just butter in your ears, butter sauce. So the plate reverb for me is more of an old school, warm, beautiful reverb that just sits well in the mix. The Lexi is this larger reverb, whole scoring stage kind of based, but we also wanted a shimmer reverb, and we have a beautiful one. In fact, it's actually multiple ones. If you type in the number of the size here from 1 to 10, you can dictate just how much shimmer you want in it. I like to keep it around 7 for me. That's really, really big. Think of it as a galaxy in your fingertips. In this case here, we recorded 10 analog synthesizers in a hall, and I'll just play it without shimmer, and then I'll add shimmer to it, and then I'll come back and show a little more in terms of pitch shifting it. You can actually add different tones to the shimmer as well. But let me just play it right now and sort of dial in the normal shimmer before doing that. But as I mentioned, we also have a pitch shift in the reverb. So right now, let me just dial it up here. Let's see, to 7 semitones. And I'll associate the pitch mix here to my mod wheel. So you can hear when I dial in, that will give you a better idea about what happens in terms of using pitch shifts in a reverb. I'm also gonna add some analog behavior to it here. That means that it's gonna be a little more natural and alive and beautiful in its state. Let's check it out. I also love using the shimmer on big choirs and evocative pads. Look down here, I'm gonna try to dial in the pitch mix as I play. In the beginning you're just gonna hear some more hollow notes, but see what happens once we start dialing in the pitch mix here and how beautiful and more octave based the instrument sort of becomes. BitBrush is an old school bit crusher with the ability to control the bit resolution in real time, including bit depth and sample rate. This is really for anyone who is somewhere between 1 and 16 bit in their sonic desires. Oh man, hear all that analog goodness crackle towards the end? It's delicious. We also have a really old school inspired vintage chorus. And it would kind of be unfair not to test the vintage chorus on an old, beautiful 1976 pair of perfect vintage Rhodes. And if you notice the slide here, it was just a tad of chorus, but with 8 voices behind it. The gate is one of my favorite effects. It's really designed as a rhythmic tool that can create rhythms out of things that are not inherently musical or rhythmical. In this case here, just some seagulls flying around on the cliffs of Portugal. And there's a couple of unique things about the gate. One thing is that you can design your own rhythms down here, of course, by moving all these dots around here. But you can also set an intro here. So for example, if you don't want it to immediately go into a gate, just add a few bars here to the intro and the sound will just play statically before it goes into the gate. We also have attack and release here, which will help shape the transients of each of the gates. Let me just show you real quick here by dialing it up. You're going to hear the seagulls get softer and softer and hotter as I move it down again. Let me just try to throw the vintage chords on this one too. To me, the gate is awesome for anyone who's interested in very sort of tempo-driven composition, often that of media, TV, movies, top 40 video games, so forth. It's just a really cool, motion picturesque hybrid kind of effect. To me, I love when effects have a unique color and language of their own. It's almost as this phaser can speak by itself. And last but not least, our stereo imager. And there you have it. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Troll, signing out here for Soundpaint. If you are curious about our rack system, our ARP, our mod matrix, or get a general overview of the engine, we have a variety of other tutorials showing that. Anyway, I'll see you around soon. Take care.